One of the most intriguing storylines of the offseason has been the power struggle within the Falcons organizations in regards to Terry Fontenot not being up there at the end of season press conference when they decide to fire Arthur Smith, to finding out that Rich McKay is involved in football operations, to the hiring of Raheem Morris, and then Rich McKay is now no longer involved in football operations. Or Terry Fontenot at yesterday's press conferences tried to add a bit of clarity to the situation. He said Rich McKay was not the ones ever making final decisions, right? That was Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot making the final decisions. He also said he was the guy leading the interviews in the hiring process. They did say Arthur Blank had final decision, but it was a collaborative effort. What are your thoughts on these most recent statements from Terry Fontenot?
You believe that? I got some oceanfront property to sell you in Arizona. I mean, this is absolute crap. And I'm trying to compartmentalize the Rich McKay, Arthur Blank facet of the Falcons organization with the Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot, because I love the Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot. I think Terry Fontenot is a great GM. He deserves more responsibility. I'm encouraged by Raheem Morris. I'm optimistic about the direction of this franchise. But there's still a devil on this shoulder, and his name is Arthur Blank and Rich McKay. The fact of the matter is I don't know what this organization has done with those two men leading it that gives Falcons fans any sort of confidence that they're not going to meddle in the business. And I get what Terry Fontenot is trying to do. He's trying to do a little bit of damage control. And here's the facts as I see him. Terry, for one reason or another, was not at the press conference talking about Arthur Smith's termination. Rich McKay, Arthur Blank were. Obviously received a ton of backlash in the press conference the weeks after that. And then the Rich McKay, Bill Belichick butting heads, that whole thing came out. And then they announced the hiring of Raheem Morris. And then in the very bottom of that press release, Rich McKay is no longer in football operations. So what happened from the time that he was the focal point right next to Arthur Blank talking about Arthur Smith's firing to announcing Raheem Morris's hiring? It's a bunch of malarkey, in my opinion.
Well, especially when you go back and see who they hired in Raheem Morris. I mean, you're talking about a guy that even Raheem Morris said it in this press conference, has now hired him 4 times throughout his career. So he even said he hired him. So he let us know, and it probably let it slip. I bet Arthur Blank was sitting there. I hope he's feeling better. Sick. Yeah. Dang it, Raheem. You weren't supposed to say it. You weren't supposed to give that tidbit. We're supposed to not have Rich McKay involved. So he basically said Rich McKay was a big part in him being hired for the 4th time in his career. So Rich McKay's fingerprints are all over this thing. So nothing has changed. And, the Falcons lying to us. They love doing it.
A couple more takeaways I had. Terry Fontenot went on to basically defend Rich McKay, kind of praising him that he's drafted Hall of Fame players. He's hired Hall of Fame coaches during his time as GM. And that is completely true. Rich McKay does have an impressive resume. The fact of the matter is Terry Fontenot, you are praising the man for his work and him being an invaluable resource to you. Why is he no longer in football operations then, if he's just this invaluable resource? Like Mark Zeno has said it best, the actions do not match the words of what the Falcons are saying. They're doing an entirely different thing. And what's crazy is, yes, Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris had and will have final say in all of these things. I am not debating that. But the fact of the matter is, if you're going to deny that Rich McKay and now Arthur Blank, because that's who Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot are reporting to, are not having at least a subconscious impact on the decision-making process, you're absolutely asinine. Because at the very least, Raheem Morris, like Terry Fontenot said, Rich McKay's this invaluable resource. Then Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith valued his perspective. So at the very least, it was Arthur Smith and Raheem. I'm getting my guys mixed up. Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot's final decision, but Rich McKay was obviously influencing those decisions. It's wild.
And I think you can go ahead and say that I don't think Terry Fontenot at all had a hand in the firing of Arthur Smith. I don't think that was. I think that was definitely Rich McKay. And I think the final decision was Rich McKay and Arthur Blank. I know they'll just say it was Arthur Blank, but we know how that relationship has worked out. It's worked this way for 20 years. I mean, I don't know who the Lord of the Rings character you like to compare him to.
Grima Wormtongue.
You know exactly how that relationship works. And, he takes Rich McKay's word I don't like hit the
That's
value he
gospel.
puts into his word. Yeah. I mean, it's gospel. And he's done this for, 10 years now or 2 decades now.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate. And listen, I think the overarching picture I'm trying to paint is that at Arthur Smith's firing, that press conference, Terry Fontenot was not there. Rich McKay was the only one sitting next to Arthur Blank. About a month or so passes by, and we are introduced to Raheem Morris, and Terry Fontenot is now back in the picture. Oh yeah, and Rich McKay's out of football operations. Oh yeah, and Greg Beatles, or maybe not Greg Beatles. I'm sorry, the head guy of Falcons communications with the media goes on. Yeah, Jukes goes out and basically says, does a little PR stuff about how great Raheem Morris was and how the collaboration and how Arthur Blank wasn't, split on the decision. It just all paints a very, it's bad politics is what it is. And you said it best. It's not the fact that they're doing these things. It's the fact that they're letting Falcons fans and other media members influencing their decisions. I could swallow the pill if you were like, hey guys, shut up. Rich McKay is going to be involved. I'd rather you be ignorant and at least be, strong-willed in your ignorance instead of being so easily swayed one way or the other. That's what it's just bad politics.
I mean, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. I mean, the PR that they are trying to control around this, it's truly I don't even know how to explain it. I don't know if other teams are like this, but I've never seen anything quite like it because they seem to clearly be looking to the Falcons fans and listening to what they have to say. I think it might even influence the coaching decision in itself, which is just wild to think that what we are thinking had some sort of factor in play in this coaching decision. And if Jukes was watching this right now, he might send me an email and say, no, it didn't. I promise you it didn't. Well, buddy, why are you even acknowledging me? Who am I? I am nobody. I am a talking head. It's just, and it's been like this through the entire process. I think that's the most discouraging aspect of the whole thing. It's like, dude, just make the decisions. Like we're going to talk about them regardless.
Which is crazy because, like I said, to begin this, little rant I have, I'm trying to compartmentalize the fact that I'm optimistic about Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot, both great guys. I love what Terry Fontenot does in the front office. Everything in terms of early returns from Raheem Morris, I'm 2 thumbs up. There's also the devil on the other shoulder, and his name is Arthur Blank and Rich McKay. So it's hard to be totally optimistic. Cautiously optimistic is what I am.
Yeah, we got to go to break. I want to talk about the leash Raheem Morris is going to have because I think that's important.